When you stop contacting her, you do not just disappear from her mind, you disappear from her control. Men often believe that to prove their worth after a rejection, they need to explain themselves, argue their case, or show how deeply they care. But the truth is, your absolute absence sends a psychological shockwave that no words can match. You are stepping entirely out of the dynamic. You are taking your energy back. This video explores the exact psychological sequence a woman experiences when you finally walk away and stay gone. We will break down the hidden emotional stages from her initial ego defense to the inevitable realization of what she actually lost. This is not a manipulation tactic to force her to return. This is about understanding the immense power of your own silence and reclaiming your emotional independence. In the first few days of your silence, she does not feel the weight of your absence. Her mind immediately rationalizes your distance as a temporary strategy, a calculated move to win back her attention. Her ego convinces her that you are still operating under her influence and that it is only a matter of time before you reach out. She believes she still holds the upper hand. Because of this belief, she maintains her calm and might even act colder than usual. She is silently testing your resistance, waiting for the inevitable moment you break character and seek her validation. If you react early and send that message, you prove her right. You confirm that she still holds the remote control to your emotions. You become entirely predictable, and predictability destroys attraction. You must remain entirely unmoving. This initial stage is a test of your resolve, not an invitation to explain yourself. When you maintain the silence, what she initially thought was a predictable game slowly begins to feel like a permanent reality. Your absolute stillness is the first crack in her assumed control, and without you saying a word, her curiosity begins to work against her. As the days turn into weeks and your silence holds firm, her perceived security begins to fracture. The human brain despises an information vacuum, and without answers, it starts to invent its own emotional narratives. She stops assuming you're playing a game and starts wondering if she did something to cause your sudden disappearance. The doubt begins to set in. She will analyze past conversations, review old messages, and search for the exact moment the dynamic shifted. The indifference she previously displayed morphs into genuine insecurity. She wonders if you simply got tired of the cycle, or worse, if you realized your true value and walked away for good. She is now experiencing the exact uncertainty that you used to feel. This is where most men make a fatal error by reaching out to provide closure. You do not owe her an explanation. By remaining silent, you allow her mind to do the heavy lifting. When she begins to question her own actions, she shifts from a position of control to a position of deep reflection. Let the silence close the chapter for you. When you still do not react, her doubt transitions into profound confusion. The feminine mind often measures a man's interest by the amount of attention he is willing to provide. By disappearing entirely without anger or dramatic exits, you destroy her established framework. She no longer knows how to interpret your behavior because it does not fit her usual pattern. This loss of emotional control creates anxiety. She might attempt to provoke a reaction indirectly by posting things online or hinting that she is perfectly fine without you. These are not signs of true security. They are desperate attempts to check if you are still watching, still caring, and still orbiting her life. She wants to see if your silence is real. True strength is not about hiding your emotions. It is about refusing to let anyone else control them. You do not need to pretend you do not care. You simply prioritize your own peace over the need to be understood. Her confusion is the first step toward genuine respect, born from the uncomfortable realization that you are no longer playing her game. Once the indirect provocations fail, her instinct shifts from seeking a reaction to silently observing you. She will monitor your digital footprint or look for signs of how you are surviving without her. She wants to know if your calmness is just a temporary facade or if you have genuinely detached and moved on with your life. Here's the psychological truth. She can easily ignore a man who is needy, vulnerable, or constantly demanding her time. But it is impossible for her to ignore a man who continues to build his life as if nothing happened. Your forward momentum makes her feel insecure because it proves that her absence did not destroy you. It proves you never actually needed her to function. Treat this observation phase with total indifference. If she drops a subtle hint or interacts with your profile, do not rush back in with relief. Your power resides in remaining invisible but strictly present, showing that you are completely unfazed. You are no longer the man who lost her attention. You are the man who learned he did not need it. Eventually, to fill the void your silence created, she will seek out new distractions or compare you to other men. This process is entirely automatic. Because you held emotional weight in her life, every new interaction is subconsciously measured against the standard you set. Everything new becomes a shadow of what you used to provide. She might find someone who gives her constant validation, but she will immediately notice the lack of depth. She will miss your patience, your directness, and the specific way you made her feel grounded. The more she tries to replace you with superficial attention, the more prominent your absence becomes. You are no longer just a memory. You are the contrast that ruins her current distractions. Do not interrupt this process by reappearing. Let the contrast speak entirely for itself. When she begins to compare, she stops looking for cheap attention and starts craving real substance. By maintaining your ground, you solidify the fact that the man who walked away calmly was the only one who left a lasting mark on her. When the distractions fail and the noise of her daily life settles, the true weight of your silence finally arrives. The reactive emotions and the games of ego fade away, leaving nothing but the stark reality of your absence. She stops rationalizing your behavior and starts feeling the massive void you left behind. Everyday moments become uncomfortable reminders of what she lost. She notices your absence when something good happens and you are not there to celebrate it, or when she faces stress and lacks your grounding presence. What was once simple curiosity has now transformed into a heavy, undeniable sense of nostalgia. The conscious man does not break his silence when she begins to feel this nostalgia. You maintain your distance because the objective was never to make her miss you. It was to prove to yourself that you do not need her. Your emotional independence is precisely what makes her realize the immense value of what she lost. As the nostalgia deepens, her mind begins to seek out your energy without explicitly admitting it. She will look for subtle ways to test the waters, perhaps by viewing your social media, reacting to a story, or mentioning you casually to mutual friends. She is desperately searching for a sign that you are still accessible. This is not necessarily a request for reconciliation. She is looking for the specific feeling of emotional security and calm that only your presence provided. Because her pride still fights against admitting defeat, she uses these indirect methods to see if she can still trigger a reaction from you, hoping to regain her lost control. If you eagerly respond to these breadcrumbs, you instantly forfeit your power. The man who understands this dynamic remains completely unmoved. You do not rush back in to offer comfort. By maintaining your calm distance, you force her to face the reality that she no longer dictates your emotional responses. Unable to ignore the deep impact of your silence, her mind enters a phase of internal self-justification. She cannot openly admit that she misses your presence, so she reframes the entire narrative to protect her fragile ego. She starts telling herself that she is just checking in on an old friend to see how he is doing. But beneath these excuses, a massive psychological shift is occurring. What she previously viewed as coldness, she now interprets as emotional maturity. She begins to see your lack of reaction as a profound display of self-control. She realizes that you are much stronger and far more valuable than she initially assumed. You do not need to capitalize on this realization. You do not need to return to confirm that she respects you now. Her internal shift is her burden to carry, not yours to resolve. She is learning a difficult lesson in real time. The man she let go of grew significantly the moment he stopped trying to please her. When the internal justifications finally collapse, she is left face to face with the emotion she feared most: genuine guilt. She begins to acknowledge her own role in severing the connection, remembering the moments she lacked empathy, patience, or basic appreciation for your efforts. The focus shifts entirely from your flaws to her own mistakes. This is her most vulnerable stage. She realizes that the other men around her do not offer the same depth, trust, or grounded masculine energy. The nostalgia deepens into a profound sense of regret, knowing she actively pushed away the one person who provided true peace. The contrast is now painfully obvious. This is not the time to offer forgiveness. True respect and forgiveness are inspired by distance, not demanded by conversation. By staying completely removed, You force her to confront the consequences of her actions without the comfort of your reassurance. You are no longer the man she rejected. You are the standard she failed to keep. This entire sequence reveals the massive difference between spoken arguments and silent actions. You could have argued, pleaded, or tried to logically explain your value to her, but those words would have been entirely filtered through her ego. Words are easily dismissed when a woman already feels she controls the dynamic. When men try to talk their way back into a woman's respect, they inevitably look weak. They negotiate their boundaries, accepting poor treatment just to keep the connection alive. But your absolute silence bypasses her ego completely. It establishes a hard boundary that she is forced to respect, whether she wants to or not. This is the ultimate act of self-respect. You are proving primarily to yourself that you are willing to walk away from anyone who does not value your presence. That willingness to walk away and stay away is the absolute foundation of all masculine power and emotional independence. The true turning point in this process has nothing to do with her eventual realization. The real transformation happens quietly inside you, the moment you stop checking your phone to see if the silence worked. You stop using your absence as a weapon to change your behavior, and you start using it as a shield to protect your own peace. The silence stops being a tactic and becomes your permanent baseline. When you were constantly available, you were leaking emotional capital. All your drive, your focus, and your masculine energy were being siphoned off to maintain a connection that did not serve you. By walking away, you have suddenly reclaimed all of that lost bandwidth. The exhaustion you felt before was not physical. It was the psychological drain of trying to force someone to see your value. This is where the rebuilding phase begins. You must take all that reclaimed energy and violently redirect it into your own life. You do not sit around celebrating that she might be missing you. You put your head down and you get to work. You use the silence to build your physical strength, your financial independence, and your internal discipline. You stop reacting to her ghost and you start creating your own empire. When a man is deeply invested in someone who does not respect him, his identity slowly warps to fit her preferences. You likely change the way you spoke, the boundaries you held, and the ambitions you chased, just to keep her comfortable. When she leaves, she takes that compromised version of you with her. The emptiness you feel is not just her it is the realization that you no longer know who you are without her validation. This identity crisis is the most painful part of the separation, but it is also the most necessary. Most men panic here. They desperately try to find another woman to validate them, just to avoid doing the hard work of self-discovery. But if you rush into a new distraction, you are simply taking the same weak, compliant identity and applying it to a different person. The cycle will inevitably repeat itself. You thought you needed her to feel whole. The truth is, you needed her to leave so you could finally grow up. You must use this painful void to construct an entirely new architecture for your character. You decide your own standards now. You forge an identity built entirely on your own achievements, your own morals, and your own unbreakable word. You become a man who is completely self-sourced. As you build this new identity, the mind will occasionally attempt to drag you back into the past by demanding closure. You will convince yourself that you just need one final conversation to clear the air, to explain your side, or to make her understand the pain she caused. This desire for closure is an illusion. It is your ego looking for one last hit of engagement, one final opportunity to negotiate your worth. Waiting for an apology or an explanation keeps you tethered to a dead dynamic. It hands the authority of your healing over to the person who broke you. As long as you believe that she holds the final piece to your emotional puzzle, you will never be truly free. You are essentially asking your captor to hand you the keys to your own cell. The conversation you're hoping for will never bring the relief you expect. This is not a negotiation. This is a hard reset. You do not need a final conversation to move forward. Your complete silence and your absolute refusal to engage is the closure. You give yourself closure by accepting the reality of the situation and deliberately walking in the opposite direction. True closure is not found in a shared understanding. It is found in your complete indifference to the past. Once you abandon the need for closure, the silence around you will deepen. This silence creates a massive psychological void. Modern society has conditioned you to fear the void, to constantly fill every quiet moment with cheap entertainment, digital noise, or meaningless social interactions. The temptation to numb yourself during this phase will be incredibly high, because sitting alone with your thoughts is initially terrifying. If you surrender to this fear and fill the void with distractions, you dilute your own recovery. You numb the pain, but you also numb the growth. By constantly running from the uncomfortable silence, you deny yourself the opportunity to develop true emotional resilience. You become a man who is always running, always hiding from his own mind, terrified of what he might find if the music ever stops. Slow down here. Do not run from the void. You must learn to sit quietly in the empty room of your own mind. You feel the discomfort and you let it pass without reaching for a distraction. By forcing yourself to tolerate the silence, you strip the fear of its power. You slowly realize that the void cannot destroy you. It is simply a quiet space where your new strength is being forged. Finally, you reach the stage of profound acceptance. The agonizing emotional spikes level out into a calm, steady baseline. You look back at the entire situation and you no longer feel anger, resentment, or a desperate need to prove your worth. You see the rejection not as a tragedy, but as a necessary correction. The universe simply removes someone who was never meant to walk the long road with you. While she may be realizing what she lost by pushing away a grounded man, you are fully realizing what you have gained. You have gained absolute freedom, brutal clarity, and an inner power that no one can ever take from you again. You are no longer living in reaction to someone else's unpredictable behavior. You own your time, you own your focus, and you own your emotional state. This is the ultimate evolution. By choosing your peace above all else, you did not lose anything of real value. You simply found yourself. Your distance sent a silent message that screams louder than any argument. You no longer depend on her to feel complete. You are a man who respects himself, and that is a standard you will never compromise again. As you settle into this new baseline, you develop a psychological trait that is incredibly rare in the modern world: genuine indifference. This is not the fake performative ignoring you tried in the early days of the separation. True indifference is the complete absence of an internal reaction. You no longer care what she thinks, who she is with, or whether she regrets losing you. The emotional cord has been permanently and cleanly severed. When you reach this state, your entire energetic signature changes. Ironically, this is precisely when she is most likely to notice your growth. Women are highly attuned to a man's energy, and they can instantly sense when they no longer have any influence over his emotional state. But by the time she realizes the full extent of your transformation, her validation has become entirely irrelevant to your daily life. This is not a manipulation tactic. This is self-respect. You do not use this newfound indifference as a weapon to make her feel bad or to punish her. You simply use it as an unbreakable filter for your reality. You have proven to yourself that you can survive the withdrawal of affection without collapsing, which means you will never again tolerate a connection that requires you to abandon your own peace. With this genuine indifference comes the complete refusal to perform for an audience. Many men try to win the breakup by aggressively posting their successes online, trying to broadcast how amazing their life is now without her. This is a subtle but dangerous psychological trap. If you are curating your daily life to prove a point to someone who is no longer there, you are still taking orders from a ghost. You are still letting her dictate your actions. The cost of this performance is your authenticity. You are still operating within her frame, desperately hoping she sees your progress and feels a pang of regret. This means your happiness is still entirely conditional on her observation. You are essentially building a beautiful, expensive house, but leaving the front door wide open, waiting for someone who does not respect you to walk inside and approve of the furniture. The real shift happens in absolute silence. You stop broadcasting your wins, you build in the dark, you train in the quiet, and you elevate your life exclusively for your own internal satisfaction. The quiet confidence of walking alone means you no longer need an audience to validate your daily achievements. Your progress becomes a private empire, fiercely protected from anyone who did not help you lay the bricks. Having built this private empire, your internal standards automatically skyrocket. You look back at the dynamic you used to share with her, and you see it with brutal, objective clarity. You recognize the endless compromises you made, the poor treatment you accepted, and the desperate ways you tried to earn her attention. The emotional fog has finally lifted, revealing exactly how much of your dignity you were willing to sacrifice. This realization is deeply uncomfortable, but it is entirely necessary. It forces you to acknowledge that the problem was not just her behavior, it was your constant willingness to tolerate it. When you lower your boundaries to keep a person, you silently instruct them to disrespect you. The pain of the separation was simply the accumulated cost of constantly betraying your own minimum requirements for a healthy relationship. You must enforce your new standard ruthlessly. From this point forward, access to your time and your energy is a high-level privilege, not a given right. You demand respect, clear communication, and mutual effort, not by asking for it, but by immediately walking away the moment it is absent. You become fiercely protective of your inner peace, knowing exactly the heavy price it cost you to build it from the ground up. To maintain this high standard permanently, you need an anchor that is significantly heavier than any human connection. A man without a clear, demanding purpose will always be derailed by a woman's presence or her absence. If your primary goal in life was simply to maintain that relationship and keep her happy, you handed the steering wheel of your entire existence over to a temporary passenger. When your center of gravity is placed completely inside another person, their departure shatters your world. You were destroyed by her leaving because she took your entire sense of direction with her. This is the profound danger of making a romantic relationship your ultimate mission. It leaves you exposed, emotionally fragile, and entirely dependent on the fluctuating moods and decisions of someone else. But here's the part people usually miss. Your purpose must be the heaviest thing in your life. It must be a massive, demanding objective that requires your daily discipline and relentless focus. When you have a mission that completely consumes you, a relationship becomes a complement to your life, not the absolute foundation of it. You become an immovable force anchored deeply into your own forward momentum. This brings you to the unbreakable state. You have walked through the intense fire of rejection, navigated the exhausting mental loops, and emerged completely reconstructed on the other side. You no longer fear the silence because you have made a powerful alliance with the void. You no longer fear someone walking away because you know with absolute certainty that you are perfectly capable of walking alone. You finally understand that her leaving was not a curse, it was the ultimate catalyst for your growth. Without that specific pain, you would have remained complacent, trapped in a mediocre dynamic, slowly compromising your character year after year. The rejection forced you to wake up. It violently stripped away your weak habits and demanded that you forge a version of yourself capable of standing entirely on his own. You are no longer reacting to your environment, you are commanding your reality. The absolute absence you provided forced her to realize what she lost, but more importantly, it forced you to realize what you actually had. You have reclaimed your masculine power, established your ironclad boundaries, and discovered a profound, quiet strength within yourself. You are whole, you are focused, and you are finally free. The journey of silence is never about manipulating someone into returning. It is a necessary, deliberate exile to rediscover your own foundational strength. When you stop validating a situation that does not serve you, you force the absolute truth to the surface. She may realize your immense worth in the quiet space you left behind, but by the time she does, you will have already moved on to a higher level of existence. True power is not making someone regret losing you. It is building a life so compelling and disciplined that you simply forget they ever left. You took responsibility for your own recovery, built a new identity from the ground up, and anchored yourself to a purpose far heavier than any past relationship. Hold the line, respect your own internal boundaries, and never again negotiate your peace for the sake of companionship. If this series has given you the necessary tools to reclaim your mind, subscribe to the channel. We will continue to break down the psychology of emotional independence and personal mastery. Keep building your empire in the dark and let your silence speak for itself.